Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. In this one, I'll be going over 5 players that I'll be looking to sell high on ahead of week 2. We obviously are coming off of week 1 here in the NFL season. A lot of surprises obviously pop up, and typically speaking, people love overreacting, especially when we just have 1 week of data. And I think capitalizing on that is a great opportunity to really improve your roster over the rest of the season. I think generally speaking, sell high. I think it's a bit of a catchy term. It's not necessarily saying you guys have to trade these guys away, but these are guys that I think outperformed and are valued a little bit higher than what they should be over the course of the rest of the year. And they're guys that, again, you don't necessarily have to trade them, but they're guys that I would certainly at least kick the tires on, including in trades that you're making this week, just because I think people are a little bit excited about them relative to what they should be doing over the rest of the year. So I also put out a trade targets video coming out the same day as this one, so make sure you guys go take a look at that one if you guys haven't already. I love trading. It's one of my favorite things to do in fantasy football. If you guys do have any specific trade questions, I always love seeing what you guys are cooking up there, so let me know in the comments. I'm happy to give you guys my opinions there, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Let's just get into it. Starting things off here, I want to highlight Deebo Samuel, who, let's face it, he had a really great game this last week. I do want to add some context to it, though. I think people are really excited. They think that he's going to come out and sort of rebound a little bit towards what we saw in San Francisco just a few years ago. And I think he could still be a reliable weekly asset, but I don't think he's going to be a true difference maker in fantasy. He was great this week, but we know that Terry McLaurin, and it's what we've seen over the last several years with these wide receivers that sort of hold out throughout the course of the offseason, it just takes those guys a little bit to get going. We're going to see Terry McLaurin get more involved. He's clearly the wide receiver 1 in this offense, and it's just going to take a little bit before we get there. So the usage and target share for Deebo is certainly going to drop a little bit. On top of that, we know that Deebo, a guy like with his level of physicality at his age, he's certainly the kind of player that could break down over the course of a season. So it makes sense that you'd see his best production in week 1 when he's coming into the year fully healthy. Also, probably helped that he got to play the Giants in week 1. That's not typically a matchup that scares us, especially in the secondary. I know their front seven's pretty solid, but their secondary is by no means special, and Deebo certainly took advantage of that. It was encouraging to see him operate out of the slot a lot. He had a career high in snaps out of the slot. That's obviously great. You know they're going to use him out of the backfield some as well. That's where he scored his touchdown. But I just don't think he's going to be a reliable wide receiver 2. I think he's going to be more of a guy that you're using as a flex spot. I'm probably going to get some PPR usage, but I don't think you can expect him to score every single week. Again, I think he's the wide receiver 2 for this team, and you're still going to have Zach Ertz use the red zone. You're going to get JCM more and more involved. Eckler was involved. There's room for Deebo to be good, but I don't think there's room for him to be a difference maker. And again, there's injury risk associated with him that we know about. I think I would capitalize on the great week 1 and to see what I can get for him right now. This one's a little bit tougher for me, but I think Zay Flowers is definitely someone worth considering trading after this ridiculous week 1. He had a 45% target share in week 1. That's great. Obviously, we know he's a guy that they're going to manufacture touches for, and we know he's a good player, so I don't want to completely get too low on him, but there's reasons to expect that usage to come down. You had Isaiah Likely and Patrick Ricard both missed this game. That sort of forced the Ravens to play a little bit more 11 personnel than they historically have. Still not even an above average rate for them, but they did run a lot more 11 personnel this last week than they typically do. It just means they're probably going to be a little bit more run heavy in future weeks when they get Likely and Ricard back. We're both big parts of the running game for this team. He also scored a touchdown this week. It was not a red zone touchdown. It was a screen pass that he scored from 25 yards out on. That's not going to happen very often, just historically speaking. He had 4 receiving touchdowns last year. I know that touchdowns are not a sticky stat, and certainly something that could happen with Flowers, where he just gets really lucky in the touchdown department. But as a smaller guy on an offense that, if anything, they added DeAndre Hopkins, so I don't think it's going to be a major factor, right? But he's still going to be a guy that's going to factor into the red zone for this team. We saw it even this last week with one really nice catch. Zay Flowers' touchdown opportunities are just going to come down relative from last year, really. You had Lamar throw 41 touchdowns. Not betting on that happening again, and now you've got more competition for touches in the red zone. And even beyond that, the Bills are one of the few teams that can actually keep up with the Ravens and force them to pass the ball. In general, I think the Ravens, sort of like the Eagles, they're a team that wants to get up, lean on their good defense and their elite running game, and go home having thrown the ball 15 to 20 times. And when that happens, Zay Flowers can easily finish the day with 3 screen passes for 30 yards, and that's it. So I think you can probably get low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 value for him, because he was the wide receiver 1.5 PPR in week 1. Really good player. Again, I just don't think the offense and the usage is going to dictate him actually performing like this on a regular basis, and I would look to capitalize on the really great week 1 output if I can. This one's pretty easy for me, though. I think Travis Kelce is a pretty clear sell high right now, and I think the big thing here is I just think he's cooked. I don't think he's very good at it anymore. We saw him really slow down a lot last year, and then even this week, in week 1, he did not look like the same Travis Kelce. I think you can easily sell the news as well that Xavier Worthy's hurt, so he's just going to be super necessary to the offense. It's a really easy pitch to make, and I don't really buy into that. You saw him get only a 10.3% target share in week one. There was no Worthy, there was no Xavier, or no Rice, and you still saw Travis Kelce not be a focal point in the offense. You had Hollywood Brown go out there and get 16 targets, and Kelce couldn't get any. You got really lucky with Travis Kelce just scoring sort of a broken play, 37-yard touchdown. That gives him a decent stat line. So people look at the box score, they look at the name. I think that still looks like they've got a good asset there. But really, you've got a tight end who was incredibly important to his offense this week. Couldn't get anything more than a 10% target share, and it resulted in them losing. He did not play well. They needed him to, and he just wasn't able to do it. And then you've got, just like looking forward here, Travis Kelce's a guy that's going to get even less integrated into this offense. You're going to get Xavier Worthy back at some point, we think. It sounds like he's probably going to try and play through and then have surgery later. Rashee Rice should be back in week 7. So, like, you're not going to have Travis Kelce be a guy that's going to be useful for you once you get to the fantasy playoffs. And I think even over the next 5 weeks while Rice is out, like, 10% target share is not going to get it done. You're going to need him to score a touchdown every week for him to be fantasy viable. And that's the case with basically every tight end that's available on waivers right now, right? So I don't think there's really any value in having Travis Kelce over just trying to like stream the position. I would certainly sell high on him while you can because I don't think he's going to be a guy that people are even excited to start going into week 3 or 4 here. Moving on to a running back that I'd be looking to sell high on, I think J.K. Dobbins is a pretty decent sell high right now. And I actually liked what I saw about out of J.K. Dobbins, right? He looked okay. He doesn't look special, but he hasn't really looked special by any means since he's come back from his injury. He's just like an okay player, and I think there's value in that. But R.J. Harvey is clearly the more explosive asset. You have J.K. Dobbins, sort of like the worst kind of fantasy asset in my mind because he's like a fringe starting asset right now that we know is going to trend down in terms of involvement and usage in the offense over the course of the season. That means that really, unless you went like a 0 RB build where you need to be starting him every single week, it doesn't make sense to hold him because once you get into week 8, 9, whenever you're having buys, right, the value of starting J.K. Dobbins in those weeks is going to be a lot lower than it is right now. And I think people still see J.K. Dobbins as like a useful low-end running back too that they can plug in and play if they need to. And I think for the next few weeks that's probably the case. But over the course of the year, you're going to see him lose work to R.J. Harvey, who's just a better, more explosive player. And as that happens, like you don't want J.K. Dobbins on your roster when you get to weeks 13, 14, 15, 16, and we're looking to, actually put up some spike weeks in the fantasy playoffs and win our matchups, win our championships. J.K. Dobbins is not really looking like a guy that's going to be able to do that for us. And all of that I'm saying is assuming he stays healthy. And J.K. Dobbins has been unable to stay healthy his entire career. Even last year, a really great year for him in Los Angeles. We still saw him miss a good chunk of time with an injury. If that happens, R.J. Harvey is going to be phenomenal. But even until that happens, I think you're just going to see the value trend down, and there's obviously the opportunity there for it to just get shot all the way to 0. So I think right now is his peak value. If you don't need to start him this week, he's definitely a guy that I'd be looking to move on from because I think you can actually get a pretty useful season-long asset for him right now. And the final sell high for me this week is going to be Aaron Jones. The big thing here for me is just that Jordan Mason looked like the better back. I think Minnesota realized that as well. They were really struggling on offense this week, and when they sort of switched fully to Jordan Mason and looked to run the ball a lot more, you saw that this offense just looked a lot better with Jordan Mason on the field running the ball. And that doesn't shock us, right? I think we all sort of expected Jordan Mason to be the guy that would probably get the short yardage, the first and second down work, and then that Aaron Jones would factor in on third downs and in obvious passing situations. Of course, he'll get some carries as well, but you don't have the goal line role for Aaron Jones. You don't have really the reliable in between the 20s role either, and basically what that means is that you need Aaron Jones to either catch a ton of passes or score a touchdown for him to be valuable. You got bailed out this week by a long touchdown reception. We know he can do that, but I'm not going to bet on Aaron Jones going out there and being a guy that's going to be scoring a long receiving touchdown every single week. That's just not something that I want to bet on out of my running back. So I feel like you can get like a low-end running back 2 value for him, and he's a guy that, again, I sort of expect the value to trend down over the course of the season. He's an older player. Jordan Mason, younger, ascending player, new to the offense, but just looks like the better player. I think you're going to see Aaron Jones get phased out more and more, and I think Aaron Jones is still a good player. He'll be good for the Vikings, but I don't think he's going to be very good for fantasy. You see these older players sort of wear down, become less useful over the course of the season as well. And I think, again, this is just another example of Aaron Jones being at his peak value right now. And I don't think he's going to be a guy that you're going to be excited to start once you get to like week 7 or 8. So I would look to capitalize right now and try and get something good for him. That'll do it for the players that I would be looking to sell high on ahead of week 2, obviously. Up next, I'll be going over some starts and sits. So I will be going through every single game, every single week, going over which players that I'm excited about to start in fantasy. Just give you my general expectation for how the game's going to go, what I expect from each fantasy relevant player. I'll split that into 2 videos every single week as well. Split it in between the first 8 games and the final 8 games. That way I get more information for those back half of games. We'll get like Friday, Thursday practice reports and all that. So stay tuned for that video, or those 2 videos. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you guys go watch the trade targets video as well. Came out the same day as this one, so make sure you guys go watch that. Get yourself well informed, well equipped to go make some trades this week, and do what we can to make our teams better. Week 1 is not everything. All that really matters is that we make sure our teams get better and better over the course of the season, squeak into the playoffs, peak in the playoffs, and then win your championship, or just dominate all year. But regardless, make sure your team's getting better and better over the course of the entire season. Trading's going to be a big part of that. It's also a hell of a lot of fun too. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you guys don't miss any of the future content. Like I mentioned, there's like 3, 4, 5 videos every single week. You guys don't want to miss that. Tons of useful and free content for you guys. And then, of course, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And if you made it this far in the video, give it a thumbs up. It helps me out quite a bit and just lets me know that you guys like what we're doing here. So I appreciate you guys, and I will catch you guys with the next one. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter @RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.